Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Sounds Like Love. Sounds Like Love is a Spanish rom-com that tells the story of a woman named Maca who's stuck in a rut working as an assistant for a conceitful influencer that she despises but has little in the way of change for her circumstances on the horizon. After a particularly nasty day of dealing with her boss Pipa, Maca gets some words of encouragement from another influencer who is much nicer in comparison named Raquel, and Maca leaves feeling pretty good about herself until she finds out that Raquel happens to be dating her ex, Leo. Finding this out stirs up long-buried memories of the relationship that she used to have with Leo, which kickstarts the rest of this movie's events into gear as the movie explores not only the redefined relationship that now exists between Maca and Leo, but also the relationships that occur between her friends Adriana and Jimena and their respective lovers as well. I have to admit, I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of this movie at first, just based on the title alone, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out how well it tells not one, not two, but three love stories all within the span of one movie, and all of them unfolding in a modern context and believable manner. Maca, the main character of the story, was portrayed very well. She's clearly someone who is stuck living in the past, as something as simple as a song on the radio will cause her to flash back to the happier times that she used to have with Leo, which only leads her to get more depressed as her present situation continues on. Leo made a lot of lofty promises to Maca when they were first dating, only for him to break things off and then disappear out of nowhere. Because of this results in Maca playing a lot of mind games on Leo throughout the movie, and just a lot of revenge scenarios in general. This might initially come off as immature at first, but the more that I got to know Maca as a character, it was hard for me to not sympathize with her. And as you might expect from this sort of movie, even though he's already dating another woman in the form of Raquel, things eventually start heating up between Leo and Maca once again the more that they spend time with each other, much to the chagrin of Maca's friends who do not support her getting back together with her ex, and it was just interesting to see how she managed dealing with so many conflicts at once. Speaking of Maca's friends, I also enjoyed seeing their stories play out in the movie too. Adriana's is an example of a woman who doesn't stay true to her identity, in that she tries as many sexual favors as possible with her husband Julian in an attempt to try and rekindle their marriage. However, it isn't until she has a sexual experience with another woman at a certain point in the movie that she finally realizes who she truly is, but at the same time she feels obligated to continue to stay in and support the marriage that she's already in with her husband, and I enjoyed seeing her try to come to terms with her moral dilemma in this regard. Jimena's storyline was a bit wackier than the others, but I still enjoyed seeing hers play out too. Her story is actually quite tragic in that she's supposed to be mourning the loss of her dead boyfriend and tries as many different ways as possible in an attempt to reincarnate and reunite with him once again. I say supposed to be because we never actually see her mourn her dead boyfriend in the movie, at least not in any scene that I can remember. She seems more content to chase after guys who aren't connected to her dead boyfriend in any way, shape, or form, and it's clear as you watch events unfold throughout the movie that she's played up a lot more for laughs compared to the other two girls. Nevertheless, she does have to come to a conclusion at a certain point in the movie based on what she really wants out of her love life, and while her decision is more on the quicker side compared to the other girls in the movie, it was thoroughly entertaining to watch. All three girls' stories effectively highlight the complicated nature of love, because the concept of love in and of itself comes in a variety of shapes and sizes, and in the case of this movie, it means a completely different thing to every character. Maca's story is about a love that once was, but is no longer there. Adriana's story is about a love that could be there, but is being blocked off by something else. And Jimena's story is about a love that was taken from her and can never be brought back again. Honestly, I was initially annoyed seeing all three of these girls trying to replicate a romance that can never be brought back, until I realized that the reason why they're making the decisions they make in this movie is because they're doing it out of fear. They're all worried that they're never going to be able to love someone, at least in the same way, ever again. So in their minds, the best course of action is to reignite something that can never be brought back. And indeed, the movie delves a bit into the philosophical side of love in this regard as well. Not so much that it gets to the point of being overbearing, but between the scenes of Leo professing the concept of love to his university class, to Maca having her inner dialogue spread throughout the movie, for a movie that's supposed to be a light rom-com, I was actually surprised at how thematic it could be. In the end though, this movie is a romantic comedy, so there has to be a balance to the comedic side of things as well. Thankfully, the movie is very entertaining in this regard, a lot of it thanks to Jimena's general silliness, but there are other characters as well that help the humor stand out too. Maka's boss Peepa was probably my favorite character in the whole movie. She is a total snob to just about every character throughout the story. She is so high in her own supply, and I love it. I think my favorite moments of comedy in this movie were the rom-com scenes, where something happens on screen, usually involving Maka, and it proceeds in an unrealistic, fantastical fashion, only for the scene to pause, and then Maka says something like, "This is what would happen if it were a rom-com," and then she rewinds the scene backward, and then the event plays out again in a much more boring, typical fashion, and I really enjoyed seeing the comparison between the two types of scenes. All of this being said, in spite of its overall entertainment value, there are a few things I noticed while watching this movie that I feel hold it back from reaching its full potential. There are a lot of characters in this movie, which isn't really a bad thing per se, but many of their character arcs are never properly finished, like Adriana's husband Julian, and Leo's girlfriend Raquel, and Maka's boyfriend whose name I can't remember. All of these characters and their parts in the story are never fully resolved. They just completely disappear by the end of the movie, and a lot of the times they're barely even in the movie to begin with. I think the movie would have benefited greatly if it had placed more focus on its protagonist Maka and less on the secondary characters like Adriana and Jimena. Not that I didn't like those characters or I thought that their arcs were bad, but with so many plot threads going on in one movie, it can be hard to keep track of everything that's going on at once. I also felt that there was a lot of unnecessary fourth wall breaking in this movie, in which Maka's directly looking in front of the camera addressing the audience and narrating a very large portion of screen time as well. Those parts completely took me out of the movie. I would have preferred if the movie kept things simple by having one, maybe two scenes of inner dialogue at most, and then keeping the rest of the movie grounded in reality and continuing on with the rest of the story as is. Overall, Sounds Like Love is a fun romantic comedy that explores modern romance in a genuine and realistic way that I haven't seen in quite some time. If you're a fan of romantic comedies, especially ones that have a large amount of romantic subplots, and you can handle some of the quirkier story elements this one has to offer, I think you'd really enjoy watching this movie. While its story is a bit all over the place, I can't say that I didn't enjoy the experience. It's hard to manage one story, let alone three, so all things considered, I'm glad that this movie turned out as well as it did. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Sounds Like Love. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the stage musical, Diana the Musical. Bye bye!